So I'm not going to spend a lot of time in analyzing the actual games. We do that for 3 hours on Sports Brewing Company on skoradio.com. That's skoradio.com. Myself, Brad Gurton, and Rick Carpenter do a full workup, a full show on the ins and outs of the game and the matchups that we'll see in Atlanta here in a couple weeks. I do want to give my opinion on a couple of takeaways from each game, though. Let's start with the Rams and the Saints. As all of you know by now, I'm sure, the Rams got away with one of the most blatant calls, non-calls, of pass interference in NFL history. And yes, it cost New Orleans the game. For all purposes, had that call been made, it would have been 1st and 10 from inside the 20, a couple runs, and there would have been no time on the clock. New Orleans would have kicked the extra point length field goal, and the game would have been over. So yes, it did cost New Orleans the game in that sense. However, I get a little sick and tired of non-calls and calls being labeled as the one that cost us the game. In that moment, yes, it cost them the game. However, there's a small chance he would have missed a field goal, and so maybe he doesn't win the game there. And even so, the coin toss went to New Orleans. New Orleans had the ball first. So New Orleans had a chance to make something happen. Sports is about momentum. They probably were down in the mouth. But as a coach, Sean Payton, and as a quarterback, Drew Brees, you got to rally your team together, not throw an interception on the first or second play of overtime, and then cost your team the game with a long field goal by Greg Zuerlein, which ended New Orleans' season, and it sends the Rams to the Super Bowl. So again, I do feel bad for New Orleans, their fans and the team, because they should have been going to the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, sports is about coming back. Sports is about working through adversity. We've seen that theme here today on today's show. I talked about Glover Teixeira, the MMA fighter who got beat up early, came back, and won the fight. Steven Johnson talks about perseverance and working through challenges. That's part of the game. That's part of sports. That's part of life. I would have liked to see the Saints pull that out and show that even though they did get screwed, they still had enough to come back and win the game. My other takeaway on this game relates to Drew Brees and whether or not this is the end of the era. The Saints have a lot of weapons around Drew Brees right now. They have Alvin Kamara. I think Mark Ingram's a free agent. They also have a good receiving core led by probably one of the best receivers in football, Michael Thomas. A defense that's good but not great. And a head coach that is very good but maybe wearing thin on his welcome. Sean Payton's attitude has drawn some ire for a couple of years now. A lot of coaches are rough and gruff guys. I don't know how much longer Sean Payton's attitude's going to hold up if he doesn't start winning more championships. But Drew Brees doesn't have that kind of time. I think this year demonstrated exactly the fragility and the humanity of Drew Brees. No longer is he the gunslinger who can wing the ball down the field at ease 30, 40, 50 yards. This is a guy who kind of relies on guile and cunning. He's not really that innovative in terms of audibles and changing plays. He's gutsy, and eventually gutsy is going to lose the edge. And I just think that we are on a downslide of Drew Brees' career. We've been kind of predicting that with Tom Brady, but I think it was really more apparent with Drew Brees this year. So I'm curious now going into next year. The Saints are going to be a contender. They're not in a world beater division. The NFC is the picture of mediocrity and parity. So the Saints are going to be a factor. But Drew Brees really needs to get through this window before it closes because he is on the downside, and I wonder how many more chances he's going to get. Okay, let's go to the other game. Kansas City and Tom Brady and the Patriots. This game was really, once again, the Bill Belichick game plan versus Andy Reid's adjustments. And again, I don't want to get too much in the schematics of the game, but I do want to say this. The refs did not cost Kansas City this game. I know there was a terrible call of roughing the passer on Tom Brady. That happens. It was a bad call, but there were a lot of non-calls and calls going in both directions. I don't think it's fair to say, like the Saints can fairly say, that a call cost them the game. So I don't want to hear that the referees made this happen. The referees weren't good, but it didn't cost Kansas City the game. What almost cost Kansas City the game is that Bill Belichick is the greatest coach to ever live. He came out with a game plan, controlled the ball for almost the whole first quarter, scored a touchdown. And what that does, people wonder why that's important. What that does is it forces the high-powered offense led by the young kid to be perfect. If New England can take 7, 8, 6, 5 minutes off the drive, off the clock, every drive, that forces Mahomes and his team to be perfect. Because if they're not, another 5, 6 minutes are going to pass, and the game becomes shorter. Patriots executed that game plan perfectly in the first half. And then Andy Reid happened. Andy Reid is well maligned as choking in big games, not being able to finish the job. Lots of NFC championship games without lots of playoffs while he was with the Eagles, and lots of underperformances with the Chiefs. Not this time. He got together, he adjusted, they found a way to get the ball to Travis Kelce, who was probably the biggest mismatch on the field next to Tyreek Hill. But a wide receiver, he can be coached, he can be coached for. He can be game planned for. He can be taken out. You can bracket a wide receiver and take him out almost completely. And they did that to Tyreek Hill. He had a very pedestrian game. Instead, Damian Williams had a good game, and Travis Kelce became a big factor in that second half. It was almost enough for the Patriots to lose to the Chiefs and send the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. Instead, we got to see what I think is going to be the new era of the NFL. We got to see the Chiefs storm down, take the lead, and give the ball to one Tom Brady with 2 minutes left. And I don't think there's one football fan who thought to himself, well, the Chiefs are going to win, the Patriots aren't going to make this comeback happen. We've all seen it before. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I've seen it way too many times. Tom Brady in 2 minutes with 3 timeouts equals bad news, and it did again. They stormed down the field. There were short passes. Gronkowski actually made a couple great plays. And boom, the Patriots storm into the end zone and take a 3-point lead with 30 seconds left. And then there was that silver lining that the NFL was just so happy to see. Pat Mahomes, with 35 seconds left, completes his 2 big passes. And boom, we are into overtime. Pat Mahomes showed that he wasn't quite ready today to beat the Patriots, but he's going to be ready soon. He's not going anywhere. That guy is spectacular. Some of the arm angles that he has on his throws, some of the reads he makes, the timing he has on a couple throws to get around the oncoming defender, the charging pass rusher. This guy is special. The team is special, and Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I know he's maligned. I know he doesn't win the big games, in air quotes, but he is one of the best coaches in the NFL. He's got a great offense around him, and I expect big things from the Chiefs next year. That being said, the AFC, unlike the NFC, has a lot of really good teams. The NFL is about parity, so we're talking 1 or 2 games difference here. We're not talking, the Golden State Warriors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the AFC has some really good teams. The Colts, the Chargers, the Ravens are on the come, although they have a very interesting style of play. But a lot of other really good teams are going to challenge the Chiefs here. The Texans, a lot of teams. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I think the Chiefs are going to be heard from, and I think the Patriots, they look like they were on their way out midway through the season. I still think they're on the decline, but that's not exactly me being Nostradamus there, right? They have an aging quarterback, and their pieces and parts need to be replaced in order for Bill Belichick to continue being the Jedi Master that he is. So, good matchup in the Super Bowl. I will definitely break that down a little bit more, both here and on my weekly radio show, Sports Brewing Company, on skoradio.com with Brad and Rick. I want to thank everybody for their time today on this podcast. I am begging you, please get involved. Help me get better. Give me your feedback in our comment section. Go to Twitter at Cinder Sports. Go to Facebook at Cinder Block Sports. And again, thank you for listening. This has been Jon O'Donnell on Cinder Block Sports. You have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.